Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of The Noah's Ark, which is a special podcast series brought to you by the Paccaya Foundation. My name is Plern, and I am a co-host today, also with our other co-host,
Joey.
And today we have a very special guest, but before we introduce him, Joey, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Plern. So, I'm a volunteer at the Paccaya Foundation.
Same here.
And we met on a retreat. So the Paccaya Foundation has had 3 retreats so far, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. And we met on the 3rd retreat.
That's right. The first one for me.
Oh, really?
From Paccaya Foundation.
Okay. And during that retreat, we sat in on meditations, on guided meditations led by a Thai forest monk.
Oh, yes.
Ajahn Chah. Ajahn. And every time that we finished the guided meditations, Plern would be so excited. She wanted to tell me all about what she went through. If she didn't want to tell me, she wanted to run to Ajahn to ask him more questions.
Yes. Now I realize that that's the product of an overactive mind. So thank you. Yeah, Joey, you helped a lot. I was in a very strange place before I got there, and then I left a completely new person.
But we found the guided meditations to be so helpful that we thought that we should have one whole series from these podcasts to be dedicated to guided meditation.
Yes.
Because it's very hard to start meditating yourself.
Yes,
by yourself.
I agree.
And it's just good to have somebody hold your hand. And that's what guided meditations do. It's having somebody experience, somebody who knows what they're doing, to hold your hand, to go through the whole process with you.
Right.
And it's very relaxing. It's all very automated. Because you don't have to do much yourself. You just listen to it. You just have to concentrate to be in that moment and let the monk lead you.
Right. It's kind of like when a toddler begins to walk and run. They need to hold on to a piece of furniture or their parent's hand. Yeah. And then after a while, when the child has gained strength and more muscle control, then you could do it independently.
Yeah. Who would you say is best suited to listen to guided meditation? Is it for beginners or is it for experienced meditators?
I would say across the board. I think it's really helpful for people who are interested in meditation and not quite sure how to do it, where to start. So in that way, it's very helpful. And of course, those who meditate regularly, I know that every time you sit down and have, time to yourself and meditate, it's a little bit different every time, right? So I think there's much to gain. Whether you're new, you're familiar, you're experienced, I think there's a little bit for everyone.
And we were thinking that in this day and age, it's not easy to get out, to meditation retreats. You can't fly to Thailand on a whim anymore, right? So it's good to have these guided meditations stocked up in a podcast so you can listen to it over and over again. And the variety that Ajahn provides us is amazing. The range of talks that he gives.
Yes.
So I think we wanted to do it for ourselves. We wanted to go back to these podcasts every now and again to re-listen to the things that we enjoyed listening to while on our retreat in northern Thailand in Chiang Mai.
Right.
And Plern and I said, instead of just being selfish and doing it for ourselves, let's do a podcast, put it on the internet so other people can listen to it too.
Absolutely. And that's why we're here today.
Yeah.
So I think we should go ahead and talk to our guest.
Yes, our guest has been patiently waiting.
Yes, on his phone.
So with us we have Bo.
We have Bo. Hi, Bo.
Hi, Plern. Hi, Joey.
And Bo is the founder of Paccaya Foundation.
Yes, and a childhood friend.
So thank you for having me today.
Thank you for having us. And thank you for arranging these amazing retreats so we could attend and we could benefit from
Yes, I thought about you the whole time I was doing the walking meditation because I felt so thankful for the opportunity.
Oh.
So yes, it would be too selfish for us to just have it be our own special moment. So we want you to share a little bit about Paccaya Foundation, and what you hope to be the goal of this podcast series.
Okay, let's go with the podcast series first. So basically, we have lots of content from our retreats, our past retreats, especially the guided meditation, which I think it would be very useful for modern people like us, people who are busy, this kind of urban dwellers who has no time. So I think, why not let's just kind of, get all the content that we have already and do something useful with it. So that's the reason why we here today, now to make the guided meditation useful to the modern mind.
Mm. How do you decide who to invite to the retreats, as in the monks who lead the sessions? How do you decide whether it's Ajahn Chah or other monks? Are they from a certain tradition?
Well, I was ordained briefly as a monk. I was fortunate to be a monk in the Thai forest tradition of Ajahn Chah. And also, I also spent some time as a monk in a non-forest tradition as well. But I think the strength of the Thai forest tradition is the meditation practice, and also the Thai forest tradition is already kind of well exposed to the West and the content in English because there's our Western teachers and meditation master. So yeah, I started with inviting Ajahn Chah as our first meditation master who led a retreat last year. No, 2 years ago, 2018.
Time flies.
I know.
Whoa,
wow.
2 years.
And then Ajahn, and then after that, Ajahn Anilaman came. He's a Nepalese / Thai monk from the non-forest tradition. Then he came and led a weekend retreat for us. And the previous one was Ajahn Chah, also from the Thai forest tradition. So yeah, it's basically I'm just trying to invite the teachers who reside in Thailand now, and in the future maybe kind of expand to inviting teachers who is passing by Thailand. That's the strategy as of now. Yes.
I'm curious because I only went to the latest or the most recent retreat, but you both were at the earlier ones, right? What, from your perspective as kind of the host of all of the retreats, what have you gained from the experience?
Well, it's interesting because I think different people have different approach to that practice. I mean, we have to be clear, like when we talk about meditation now, we're talking about Buddhist meditation. Right? There's various of, meditation in the world, but let's be clear, this is a Buddhist kind of inspired, a Buddhist based meditation. For me, I've been experimenting in a lot of temples and ashrams. So it's basically kind of the format that actually Paccaya Foundation is actually designing is something that I think maybe kind of suit the modern mind, like, people of our generation who are kind of curious, inquisitive, and, we just can't go to temple, monastery in Thailand, just kind of, pure devotion or just pure belief,
Right.
We have to ask questions. We have to kind of, okay, how do we apply it to our modern life? How can I bring it back to our home and practice? And,
Right.
No, not everyone can be monastic, right? So
Right.
I think that's the key. So the core principle of the foundation, Paccaya Foundation, is to be the word Paccaya means the closest definition in English would be like a facilitating factor.
Okay.
So we want to be an entity that can accommodate vision of reviving, refreshing, and revitalizing the Dhamma in the modern world, basically. So that's our aim. And the retreat is organized in a non-traditional format. So in Thailand, normally in the retreat, it's you either go and just sit, no but silence, sit and talk, and no
And that's
talking.
hard.
Yeah, 10 days, whatever, 1 week.
Right.
So we're trying to do something new. It's a mix between, study session, intellectual side, listening to Dhamma teachings, and do your own reading, and then also combining with a formal meditation, sitting and walking, and time for Q&A and stuff. So it's a new format, but basically it's from the ancient Buddhist heritage.
You mean multiple approaches to learning something multimodal. There's reading, there's listening, there's practicing.
Yeah, because back in the Buddhist kind of tradition, there's actually a building block of learning. There's a system called the Three Wisdoms.
The Three Wisdoms.
Yeah, which in the Tibetan tradition is is their strength. So basically it's a wisdom of studying, hearing, like intellectual, and the wisdom of contemplation, what you heard, you can apply it in your daily life, ask questions about it, reflect on it. And then we have the wisdom of meditation, which is the formal kind of meditation. So these three wisdom is the building block of our retreat, basically.
And who are the main audiences of the Paccaya Foundation?
So far, it's been people of our generation, so more like the Buddhist millennials, and the international crowd. People fly all the way from abroad. Also, some expats living here, and because our retreats are all in English, and I think with running a retreat in English, it also helps with a lot of modern people, a lot of younger generation, because somehow it kind of transpass the cultural
hierarchy,
the cultural coating of like Pali language, religious language. Like using English, sometimes you can go directly.
Right. And I think the important thing about Paccaya Foundation's retreats, or kind of your style, is you mentioned a few times, like, you can ask questions. And the latest retreat, I did ask a lot of questions, but that's how I learn, So I think it's how a lot of people learn. But when you're kind of in the more traditional approach to learning meditation, there is something that discourages you, or you don't feel too confident in asking questions or having a discussion about it. But, this is the scientific approach. You have a question, you find answers through the questioning and answering of, whatever theory is in your mind. You gain a deeper understanding of the topic. So I really appreciated that.
And I do appreciate the fact that the monks that do come to the retreats are very open-minded.
Yeah.
They won't say, you can't ask that question.
Right.
They won't say, this is not the time to ask the question. They're so humble.
Right.
I mean, you think that these monks have been meditating for 20, 30 years. They would have, I wouldn't say an ego, but, they would have a bit of a barrier.
Yeah, a distance.
They don't.
No. And I think that brings us to one of the missions of Paccaya Foundation, which is this idea of accessibility. Easily accessible, easy to understand, easy to grasp. So there are no barriers towards us accessing, wisdom of the past, wisdom of the Buddha.
And one thing I was pleasantly surprised by was we had so many people who attended the retreat that were first-timers.
Yeah.
Mathematics teachers, architects that flew in from abroad, and they've never been to these retreats before, and yet they could gain from it, and they could experience something that awoken them for the first time. Right. It wasn't intimidating.
I think barrier is a key word. It's good that you mentioned that word, because traditionally in Thailand, especially, like, you kind of, the school of thought is either you just study Buddhism, the text, or just meditate and no books, no letters or no words at all, and just meditate. So I think what we're trying to do is kind of balance, both sides, because for me personally, I think it's more effective. You kind of balance the study and the meditation,
right?
And you have two views. You have the views of, like, when you read about meditation, you have the pre-meditation view about meditation.
Right.
And once you meditate, you kind of have your own experience, trials and errors, and then you have the view after you meditate. So it's a good balance on your own personal practice.
Right. And what you're basically talking about is a more modern educational approach. We don't live in a time where it's just about the one-way kind of delivery of information. It's a dyadic process where it's a conversation, it's relevant, it needs to solve a problem that I am personally facing right now in the world. So yeah, I think we're shifting kind of this whole Buddhist practice to be a little bit more in tune with how our education system is.
Yeah, and I think education is a good keyword as well, because actually our standpoint for the foundation is, this is actually Ajahn Chah's idea. Buddhism, or whatever, the Dhamma, the teaching of the Buddha, is actually an educational system. It's not really a religion for me. It's more or less like, a system of learning by your own mind, plus lifestyle. So you have to have a perspective, lifestyle, and then practice. It's actually a system of learning, basically, or a traditional wisdom. Is not my word as well, but I'm just
traditional wisdom. I like that.
Yeah.
And these monks, they know how to get to you, and the way that I can relate to how they teach is they use a lot of stories, a lot of anecdotes. They can describe your mind in such a way that you can see it through characters, through events. I don't want to go into too much. I don't want to give it away, but you start seeing it in like the second, third episode, how Ajahn talks about, now imagine that your mind is this kind of character.
Right.
What's it going through? How do you resolve it? It's very, very interesting how you can communicate very easily and be so profound at the same time.
Okay, so back to the Noah's Ark.
Can we call this mindfulness podcast? Is that what we're going to help audiences do? Achieve mindfulness?
And if we can't call it that, why can't we? I mean, are there issues with the word mindfulness?
I mean, I think we should ask Bo.
Okay.
I think I have a slight issue with the word mindfulness.
Oh, he does have issues with it.
The modern mind.
I think the word mindfulness has been kidnapped by the West,
Ooh.
It's more like a westernized version of Buddhism. I mean, one has to be clear that if you look at the wellness industry or the spa, blah, 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 all this kind of feel-good, new agey stuff, they kind of kidnap, and I don't want to say this word, but whitewash, meditation a bit, become kind of
How?
Become a product or a service,
Oh, right.
Meditation become a commercialized kind of
I see what you mean.
Product or service that you pay for.
Right, okay.
But, it's just a feel-good kind of thing. Okay, there's pros and cons, right? The pro side is that it's a good introduction, to Buddhism or to the mindful movement. But actually the word mindfulness comes from sati, right? Which means mindful, but that's only one side of the coin of the whole practice, And then that's the pro side is actually a good introduction to Buddhism, to Buddhist meditation. But the con side now is becoming, mindfulness has been kind of franchised around the world in spas and kind of workplace, and
like a gimmick or something.
It's a gimmick, and like in healthcare, and it's just kind of oversaturated, and it becomes something that people go for shopping. It's like this kind of materialistic mindset, you go buy the experience of mindfulness. And
I see. It's decontextualized, right, from its original, its origin.
Let's say it's cherry-picked Buddhism, right? That's the problem. It's not my word as well, okay? So it's like a cherry-picked form of Buddhism, because in the West there's a tendency of, you don't want the whole kind of moral side, the whole
just
practice.
Take what you need.
Yeah, just have this and that. And it's a bit like mixing a cocktail, right? This is what you like, customized, tailor kind of made version.
One thing I hear quite often from Buddhists is a very important component of Buddhism is the sila.
Right.
Maintaining 5 or 8 precepts to maintain clarity. You don't taint your mind with killing, with lying. And obviously that isn't in the context of mindfulness at all.
Right.
Mindfulness just takes the practice of sitting, meditating, walking, but there's no sila at all.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with mindfulness being in the wellness industry, but you have to be clear that, if you want to feel good, you go do your wellness meditation in spa, fine. But if you're really serious about transformation, about, deeper question like, what is life? Why am I here? Then, going to spa wouldn't help. You have to be serious about your investigation into your own mind.
You're talking about spiritual growth, right? So it's a deeper level understanding of what mindfulness is, a part of that is that it needs to have a bigger context to it. It needs, the silas, and it needs...
It's a system, basically, You can't just pick one side, kind of one side of the system, and then just turn into kind of a product or a service, So I think this is a question that we have to investigate also in the modern world, what is mindfulness and what is meditation.
Which I said,
the Noah's Ark will help you develop mindfulness,
but with a context to it, which is Buddhism, which is the teachings of the Buddha. So through and, within the context of Buddhism, you will get to learn more about how to meditate while having, our Ajahns guide you through the process. So it's not taken out and practiced as a separate skill, but it's embedded within this religious approach that, is based upon the teachings of the Buddha and in itself an education system.
Yeah, and it's authentic. I think that's the key word. Yeah.
So it is more spiritual than your mindfulness curricula elsewhere.
I don't know. The word spiritual also now has been commercialized. That's a whole different topic.
So spiritual, in this sense, I just mean existential. I mean deeper. It's not just a skill set.
Right.
It's like there's a depth to understanding.
It's not just a tool.
No. Yeah.
And I think what we'll try to do is, before each guided meditation, Plern and I meaning Joey, we'll go through it before we listen to the meditation together. We'll talk about our experiences with the guided meditation. We'll prep you. What are we expecting from this guided meditation? How to get the most out of it? So maybe we'll spend 5 to 10 minutes before each guided meditation to talk about it, and then play the guided meditation for you to hear.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
Well, we hope you like it, because we love it.
Plern bugs at us every other day. It's like, Bo, when are we going to have another retreat? Bo, when are we going to have another retreat? So this podcast is for you, Plern, for you to go back every 2 days to listen.
That's a separate issue. Like, why do I need a retreat to feel balanced again in life? And I go back and forth. And I know why, but it's hard to do. So, I mean, this is another point that I think we want to communicate to you, is that you don't have to be a Buddhist, and you don't have to have practice, and you don't have to be so amazing at meditation to really gain from this content, the podcast series. We want to be able to just expose you to some of this great stuff, make it accessible, so that if you're listening, to one of our episodes in the car on the way to work, you're getting something. If you're at home and you're really focused on, doing some reflection and you listen to it, you'll get something else. I mean, regardless of what you listen to at what time, during what activity you're doing throughout the day, you're going to get something from it. And so, yeah, I'm no expert. So I hope you can see me as kind of a friend. You're like caring friend, curious friend.
Yeah, I think people can relate to you. That's a good thing about having you doing the intros of these podcasts. You're relatable. They can see what you're experiencing, and then hopefully that can help them learn and go through the process a little bit easier.
I mean, I hope I can be helpful.
Yeah.
I'm seeking the answers to my own questions still today.
and that's a good thing, because you don't have all the answers. You're going through the whole process with the listeners too.
Yes,
you're still on your path.
Yep. Whereas I'd say Joey and Bo have more experience, more practice. You both have been ordained as a monk. In the beginning, I was like, why can't women be monks?
And
but the explanation is really long.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a whole different podcast.
Yeah. Women's rights and,
All right.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, we can only be serious for about 25 minutes, and then it becomes giggly. Well, anyway, thank you, Bo,
Thank you for
being
having
here.
me today.
Thank you for coming, Bo.
Is there anything you want to leave a message, a take-home message for our audiences? Anything?
Enjoy meditating.
That's great.